And we're live. Interesting to note on the live dashboard here, it has a timer almost for 0 where we're starting at 14-15 seconds now, but ends at an hour, which is really confusing. Don't know what that's about. Welcome everyone to Moisky Live, a political recap stream with myself and Trups LP. Say hello, Trups LP.
Hello, Trups LP.
And how is Trups LP?
I'm sipping down a beer.
I might be able to top you. I've got something for you. I got a story. I have a regular subscription box for something called Graze. They send you little things for mine's a protein one, so you get four little packets with various protein heavy little dishes. Some flapjacks, different flavour flapjacks. Some veggie protein power, salt and pepper mixes, and one that's like an onion bagel crunch thing with pumpkin seeds and some other little bits in there, and it's fantastic. They give me a voucher for a free 10-pack of assorted beers, and I've got it next to me from Beer 52. Not a sponsorship, I promise. I've got these beers in a box next to me because I'm taking them to a barbecue tomorrow for my sister. It's my niece's birthday, but myself and a couple of the adults will drink these because they're not like beers I've ever heard of or tried. One's like vanilla and coffee flavour. I'm like, oh really? Let's have some, mate. Before we start, hello Waylon, Otaku, Linda, Kerry, Cyrene, and Vincent. Hope you're all well. Sorry I didn't set this up earlier. I forgot. Yeah.
I was literally about to say that one. Like, I apologize for all the people who are streaming in now. We both kind of screwed the pooch on that one, and we're not paying attention for lack of a better.
I'm genuinely very sorry. I have no excuse for it. But we're here. We have some subjects, although, to be honest, I forgot to look through them. But I did pull up some sources, because obviously we should talk about what has happened this week in America, especially. You have been shilled. Thank you, Karma, for doing that. I do appreciate it. I'm not going to forgive you for those donations, though. How dare you? Was it you that made me say daddy? How dare you?
Do you really need encouragement?
You know, George Soros says thank you. I think definitely America is a subject we need to talk about. And I know you and I briefly discussed it on Facebook about how one addresses the subject. And you're right, that is going to be so difficult. It really is. But I think we'll get it. I think we'll be all right. I think we know how to approach this. But I thought perhaps instead we'd start with that quote. Doesn't understand what it means to be American. Have you heard this before?
Hold on, can you say that one more time? Because you lag a little bit on my end.
Apologies. Doesn't understand what it means to be American.
I don't know the context. I mean, obviously, I understand the words that comprise the quote, but
every time I've heard this said, it has come from a wealthy, famous person who is speaking as if the rest of the country agrees with them on their progressive policies. Doesn't understand what it means to be American. And I've heard it so many times over the last 7 days, it is starting to piss me off. Because the people who are saying it are typically those supporting the riots and the damage. Now, I get it. Your country does have a lot of protests over the years, you know, in your short span. But I'll be honest,
right.
I don't think it's a valid thing to say to everyone else in America that if you disagree with this, you don't know what it means to be American, which is what the context is. Those who just want to go to work and those who just want to... It's just a quote that's been bugging me. I don't know how to fully air it.
No, I definitely understand why it would bug you. It bugs me too, mostly because the people who end up speaking on platitudes, who are the more wealthy individuals, the more well-known individuals, the ones who are famous, right?
Yeah.
No one can ever say that they are the average person.
They're really not.
They're not. An average person is arguably somebody who doesn't actually use Twitter. And I say it's the average person who doesn't use Twitter because if you imagine that the majority of the labor force are working blue collar jobs, when the fuck do they have time to go hang out and look at Twitter?
Mm-hmm.
They're working. They don't have time for that. Sure, they might get home, pop the TV on, have some dinner with their family, and then maybe, but I doubt that would be what they're thinking of doing because I don't necessarily think that that's where they get their news. Now, of course, the individuals that do go on Twitter, them being majority young people, women, and professionals who are trying to amplify their own voices,
Yeah.
to those groups, by the way, yeah, they use Twitter. But the idea that people will say, well, you don't know what it means to be American, as they basically glorify the riots and property damage and loss of life, which, by the way, we've gotten to a bit more of it. Just want to point out. Yeah, all those things, and you're saying, oh, well, you don't know what it means to be American. Oh, fuck off. No one wants to hear your shit.
I've heard this said so many times in other contexts as well, and every time I hear it, it sounds like the most arrogant thing to come out of your mouth. We don't say that, oh, you don't know what it means to be... It's like, I hear that, I do also hear it when people say, like, I've commented on American issues, and I've gotten that comment, you don't know what it means to be American. You're right, but that in that context, it does make sense, but at the same time, it feels more like a, I don't like you criticizing my country thing. Yeah? I was talking to others about this earlier. We don't have that here because we're not very protective, English people especially. So if you insult the Scots, a lot of Scottish people will get very, very defensive. Same with Welsh.
I thought you guys did have something similar because I thought there was an instance where there was like this whole like this is not England or this is not English, so and then everyone was like trying to have it out where
that's a very you've got a point actually, yes, but it's so. I think the nearest you'll get is actually to some fake news that cropped up this week that claimed protesters were defacing and defiling the cenotaph. Which, if they had, I promise you, I would have been quite cross. Written a sternly worded letter to all of them. Because you don't touch that. But then earlier in the week there was actually a protest that did damage a where is it? I will pull up the source. I have it hidden.
I saw
somewhere.
That London got a little hairy.
Okay. So Whitehall was graffitied, as was a statue of Earl Haig. Who was Earl Haig gets a lot of flack in history. Because people think all the deaths that suffered under his, leadership were at the time they were deemed because there were millions, they were deemed reckless. But historians now firmly believe actually his strategies were ahead of their time, and actually he got it right. The death obviously is unacceptable, of course it is, but he got the tactic right. And so Earl Haig is, while divisive to historians and analysts, actually a very clever man. The number of controversies in his life, but his statue on his horse was defiled with the household cavalry, not even 24 hours later, out there with the horse brushes, scrubbing that graffiti off his statue. And Whitehall, really? People were going up to them afterwards while they were scrubbing, saying, you should be ashamed of yourselves. It's not even been 24 hours and you're taking this down all because of a protest. Do you not realise how much this matters? Unironically, in front of Whitehall. Come on. Whitehall was so important during the wars. It really was. And people don't seem to get... They think that their issues matter more than something that was so pivotal for this country's existence.
Oh, I mean, we had something similar. Some of the
sorry about the chair
some of the memorials and monuments. I'm sorry.
Sorry about the chair squeaking. I do apologize.
Some of the memorials that have been defaced during these riots have been like 9/11 monuments.
Yeah, we don't do that. If you touch the
in DC, in DC they graffitied a monument meant to honor black soldiers that fought in the Civil War.
Really?
Yep. No sense of self-awareness was present.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So
But
there was some fake news going about with the cenotaph. I personally knew it wasn't the cenotaph. I recognised the statue as Earl Haig's. I'm glad though that it was cleaned up. I don't like that the protesters were still there giving them shtick, saying that you shouldn't be. If this is apparently a statue is more important to you than our, and then it's all white people making these complaints as well. But hang on a second. Hang on. How do I articulate this? You're talking about Black Lives Matter and their history in this country, oppression in this country, in the United Kingdom. Right. I don't think you know British history that well. I mean, we had an empire, yes. But no.
I was going to ask you about that. Since obviously London, as well as several other major cities in different countries, are protesting in the wake of an American issue.
Yeah.
That by itself is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What is your guys' history with police violence against black people? Just out of curiosity.
So the only thing really in this country more recently that's been going on is the stop and search in London. It was abolished and knife crime increased, predominantly in gangs, ethnic minority gangs. And it was gotten rid of because people thought it was racial profiling. It was.
Okay. Yeah.
This
if it's anything like our stop and frisk, yeah.
I don't know actually. I'm not too familiar with the
stop and frisk was a policy. Well, stop and frisk for New York was a policy put in place by Michael Bloomberg when he was the mayor of New York City, and it disproportionately encouraged police officers to stop minorities on the streets in New York City and stop and search them for weapons.
Right.
It was meant to curb violence, which technically it did, but at the same time, it was definitely racial profiling.
Yeah. So there is a racial profiling element in London, but the thing is the crime is happening predominantly in communities within London boroughs that are heavily a race. That is not, for the most part, white. That doesn't mean, though, black. It means others. There are some other ones as well.
I was going to say, but is it black? That was actually going to be my next question.
Yeah, there are some other ones. There are some Islamic communities
Obviously.
as well. There is an issue... oh, no, hang on. I just lost the thought. Racial profiling. There was some of that. So, our police, for the most part, this is where I was going to go. Our police, for the most part, are incredibly, regulated. Far more than yours. Our police can't touch someone without... Unless you hit a police officer... which by the way, if you do, you're gonna go down. They're gonna take you down eventually. We've got police officers who are in the news because they got stabbed, and what do? They took the fucker down. And yes, they got some got beaten up, and it doesn't matter. The people involved they still fought them, and they got arrested eventually. But our police are regulated. They're held to account. Arguably, they are by comparison cucked. Many want Cressida Dick. Now I've remembered that. Sargon of Akkad, message to you. Cressida Dick is pronounced Cressida, not Cressida. Please stop. So yeah, she's the chief of police Met in London, and she's a tragedy. She's not had a very good run, I will say that, and I'm not going to say she should be fired or not, but she should be fired. The police for the most part.
That's how you really feel. Go ahead.
Yeah. The police are very heavily regulated, held to account. They don't have powers anywhere near the level of yours. That's fine though, because our crime is while we do have an increase in certain areas that do need addressing, our police are stretched thin. They kind of get the job done. But we don't have a lot of the tools you guys have that cause a lot of the issues that you guys have. So there are vastly different. So our police don't need to be as powerful, for the most part. There are some things, there are issues. People always say whenever someone takes down they say there were a few issues that have happened over the years. The guy in the tube who got shot by a police officer, that was... it's pronounced... Oh, gee, Pedro Pacific. Jeez. Your police are pussies. Our police are pussies. They're cucked. But we don't need them to be too heavily armoured. There are some that are. Units that are. Certain people that protect the royal family, because there are not just the Grenadier Guard, but also there are some police that are present. They have to be. Some politicians as well. It is a statement of fact. It's what happens. Don't be sorry for a second. Honestly, I don't mind. But we don't have this. While people say there are still issues in this country, I'm sure there are. In every, and I would say in our country, it's everywhere, because not one single group actually has it as easy as everyone thinks. In your country, I don't really understand. I say I don't understand, but I've noticed a lot of people say it is just black people that have it the hardest. Do you think that's true? As a blanket statement?
Do you want my? I feel like my actual response to that
it's gonna be no, isn't it?
Well, it's kind of.
Okay.
So, black people don't necessarily have it institutionally harder. Meaning, there are not laws in place that legitimately, or rather legally, create them to be second-class citizens.
Okay.
However, I will not deny the fact that black people have to deal with people who just don't like them because of their race. Now, there are reasons for this. There are stereotypes that some may or may not be rooted in actual truth, if ever, as minor as they may be.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say that they're not, there. So, I don't know, because white people have the same problem from the black people. If you've noticed some of the footage of the riots, there's been a lot of racial back and forth.
Oh, hang on. The like button donated £4. So lonely, give me a smash, please. Thank you, the like button, for the £4 donation.
You know what? Real quick, as I hear that fucking thing, it makes me remember a fucking post that I saw on Facebook where it said, this weekend, instead of going out and harming your community, go and smash an ethnic minority in solidarity. And then it said #smash pussy, not Windows. And I was just like, oh, okay. That's a way to do it, I suppose.
Right. By the way, the chat is questioning your answer already.
Racism does exist. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
In this country, there is still racism. Yes, I will not be so stupid as to say it doesn't, but it's certainly not. It is obviously any form of discrimination is a big deal. I should say that. But it's there. If there are levels, we're very low down on the rungs. We really on that ladder. We are just not. We should still seek to tackle it, of course, but it is not.
Well, the hardest thing to address when it comes to what the problem with the racism does exist thing is how the progressive side has decided to call racism, right?
Yeah.
So racism cannot occur in ethnic minorities who do not have the systematic or institutional power to enforce laws that disproportionately affect another race. Therefore, black people, Mexican people, etc., cannot be racist.
Mm-hmm.
That's the SJW position. Now, unfortunately, that discredits any other form of racism that you might see. It only makes it so that white people are the racist ones.
Right. See, the systematic
argument, and we won't even talk
in the chat.
And we won't even talk about the fact that China literally hates black people.
China does actually,
systematically and institutionally. So China hates black people.
Not just it's not a lot of the East Asian countries do hate people from other races. Japan is no exception either. Japan too. It's astonishing, and obviously we're not talking about them. We're talking about America and the United Kingdom. But it is interesting when you're going to start comparing globally, because that's what people are doing. The UK, we are doing the best we can, and for the most part, a lot of the issues we have aren't systematic, or is it systematic or systemic? Which one is it? I can't remember.
Systemic.
Thank you. It's not that. People say it's the system. It needs to be torn down. I'm like, is this the Amazing Atheist with his tinfoil fucking hat again? Put your tinfoil fedora in the fucking bin.
But it's equally as frustrating for U.S. territories. Now, what I mean by this is, yesterday or the day before, Dominicans and Haitians were trending on Twitter.
Were they?
Which was really funny because the day before I had a guy on Facebook that I know who wrote racism, or black people can't be racism, changed my mind. I was like, okay, Steven Crowder.
Oh no.
Left-wing Steven Crowder, let's go.
Yeah.
And I said, have you ever seen Dominicans talk about Haitians? And he said that was one of the most educated things that he's ever said, or someone's ever told him on here. And then he said maybe it has to do with, their systemic power. And I was like, well, no. Because the Dominican Republic doesn't actually enforce any laws over the Haitians.
No?
No. They're different countries.
Ah.
They're on the same island, just different countries.
Didn't know that.
But Dominicans really, really don't like Haitians. Now, Dominicans are a mix, so mixed actually at this point that they're kind of their own thing. They identify as Indo, which is basically brown. It's just not black. But they don't self-identify as like mulatto or necessarily black or mixed race. They literally identify themselves as Indo.
Yeah.
Versus Haiti, which is like 95% black of African descent. Because Haiti's history, the slaves revolted and killed the slave owners and took control of the island.
Mm-hmm.
And then proceeded to realize they didn't know actually how to do the tasks that the slave owners did, and then it kind of became a shithole. Either way, Dominicans really don't like Haitians because they think that they're lesser. Dominicans are black at face value. Haitians are black at face value. But it's an ethnic thing. They just don't like them. As Karma put it, it's an us versus them mentality. It's not a race thing, but Dominicans literally will call them racial slurs without being, fully aware of the fact that they are also dark. Or I think they are fully aware, they're just not as dark as them.
Right.
And this is actually very common amongst particularly Hispanic communities. Hispanics aren't necessarily the nicest when it comes to other Hispanics. We're going to exclude Spain from this because Latin America has plenty to say about Latin America. Puerto Ricans thinking about Argentinians, saying things about Brazilians, saying things about Mexicans, saying things about
it's really interesting then to hear other countries who are blatant, or there are many who within their countries that are blatantly racist towards other people from other countries, or it is a us versus them thing or class related thing possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go back to your own country and you get a real scope on it. And obviously your country is a bit strange because it's so big. I don't really want to equate anything down to race, and like the COVID-19 dealing with it. I'd really rather address it by state. Mm-hmm. I just think then it's a little bit easier not to address at state level. It feels more manageable.
Shup's making the case for whiteness. No, I'm Hispanic.
Yeah, he's not white. In fact, neither of us are. I'm blue. Notice. See, no, he actually genuinely is Hispanic, by the way. His face is just hair. He's a werewolf as well.
Oh my god! Right now, I really am.
Yeah. Do you think do you think with the BLM stuff, the riots, the murders, the assaults, the protests, I can't commit to that, protests, the fire, the burning, the destruction, do you think this is them do you think they are let's say, do you think the majority are acting good faith on their own beliefs of race, or do you think it's entirely an us versus them, let's just have a go thing?
I can't say in totality either way, because I fully believe that there are individuals who are in that protest. I mean, unfortunately, that protest is actually many protests across the entire nation. I guarantee you there are people in those protests who believe that they are protesting to bring awareness to Black Lives Matter and the irrational death of George Floyd. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I also know, based on actual video evidence of a looter who was arrested, who said, "No, I just wanted the money."
Yeah.
He looted, he got arrested, and then when asked about it by a fucking interviewer on a news channel, he was like, "Why'd you do it?" He goes, "I wanted the money." He goes, "This isn't about George Floyd?" He goes, "I mean, some of it might be, but I just wanted the money."
Bearing summed this up pretty well in a video where he showed the protesters who were just looting and taking all the TVs, and then the journalists. This is why I take real issue with your journalists right now, because they were doing videos, and he used it, of journalists standing in front of ginormous burning buildings to say, well, these people are peaceful and organized, and they're
yeah, I saw that, and it was fucking hilarious.
I'm so cross.
It's actually fucking stupid.
People are constantly bleating on about free press. The media must be free to report the news. But that's not what you're doing. You
Correct.
buy it. You're doing it because you're afraid of them hitting you. That's why you're being biased little shits.
Have you seen the video of the dude who was like standing in the window and some like protesters were walking by and he like knocked on the glass and gave him a thumbs up and then a fucking rock went through the window?
Yes.
Oh my god, that was the greatest instant karma I've ever seen. He's like, "We're on your side." What, do you think that meant that you weren't going to get fucking attacked?
We're on your side.
You thought that gave you immunity?
We're on your side. So let's go torch CNN's headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
We're on your side, though. Thank you for taking up the fake news, though. Although I will say, for the sake of it,
if I were going to be on the protesters' side in that case, you're not on my side. You're not walking the street with me.
Damn right. Although I did see some funny videos of people doing that. Like, there's some people walking with them. Anna Kasparian did, and that was cringe. Even Jake Paul, who I addressed yesterday, he got arrested just after I bloody well made my video defending him.
I thought that was hilarious. Go fuck yourself. Everyone knows you're an asshole now. Oh, everyone who always said that you were an asshole, now they're vilified.
He is an asshole.
Verified.
But the video footage he did show in his video did prove he wasn't. He is in the vicinity. He is in the place. Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Go enjoy prison for a bit. But he wasn't involved in the protesting. So I did. That's why I defended that part. Even his brother called him out. I'm like, and to be fair, Logan Paul has kind of changed. Logan has changed, so I'm kind of okay with him now, actually. But I genuinely defended him a little bit, and then he got arrested, and I was like, fuck's sake, it always happens. I get things that don't age well, and it happens to me. But fine. Bad. It's fine. You shouldn't have gone into the mall that was broken into. That's what you got arrested for. Congratulations. Not for looting. That was the thing I defended him. He did not loot. The video footage I showed, along with video footage he shows, proves he didn't loot anything. And that was the point. The fact he got arrested afterwards was something else, and I may have to address that next week because it's triggered the shit out of me, okay?
I mean, look, if anybody were to get themselves into an instance where you could probably say this person did a bad, it's probably one of the Paul brothers.
It's okay. Logan's already lost. Jake's next. Kez is going to knock the shit out of him.
Yeah.
So to ask questions, I've got some more about the protest for you.
Okay.
What has happened over the last week, excluding the things Trump has done that has gotten everyone up in a tizzle because everything he does always does?
Okay, so there's an interesting thing that actually I found out happened yesterday. So Trump posted a 4-minute long tribute to George Floyd.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
I did.
Did you also know that Twitter copy striked it
No!
within minutes of him posting it?
You're kidding!
Yeah, and the words that he spoke were probably some of the most presidential things he has ever said.
Oh, my life. What did he say?
Oh my god, it was 4 minutes long, basically saying that this is a time for holding hands, not exchanging fists. This is a time where we should be building things up, not tearing things down. People, the cops are on your side. They too hate what happened to George Floyd. The good cops are standing there appalled at what the handful of bad cops have done in their name. And basically, he goes on for 4 minutes long, and all these pictures are going through, and it says, this is the time for unity. This is the time for us to grow together. This is the time that we need to put forth so that we can build up our community stronger. We have put in place a lot of things over the past years to help curb racism and violence, and we need to continue that. And Twitter fucking blocked it.
They blocked that, but they're okay with the
I
thug
swear
tweet.
to God. Yeah.
That is actually a joke.
They are fucking propaganda. I don't care what anybody says. Twitter is propaganda.
Should I tweet that at them and see if I get banned?
Sure.
Alright, let's do this.
What are they gonna say?
Alright, Twitter is propaganda. It is tweeted, and I'll even
I think
put it in the
YouTube
chat.
still has it up. I think YouTube still has it up, which is ironic.
I'll put it in the chat. Twitter is propaganda. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I still crack up when I saw me putting out a No Lives Matter tweet and me losing so many followers because of it.
Oh yeah, I mean everyone's bitching right now. I can't go on Facebook or Twitter and share my usual fucking cute dog picture or cute cat or a fucking snake with a hat on. No, I'd have to deal with all my fucking friends posting their own virtue signal so that the black friends that we mutually have don't get upset.
Did you see the blackout thing? Not for the hashtag Black Lives Matter. That was a 4chan thing, though, wasn't it?
I don't know, but I thought it was hilarious because Tim Pool had posted somebody's like picture talking about it, and they were like, I can't see anything. I can't see the riots. I can't see the police violence. I can't see the good things, the bad things.
Yeah.
You've effectively censored all of the footage.
Did you know in the UK there was a hashtag trending at number 2 today, and I've kept the trend thing, so I'm going to put it in this week at Twitter. Hashtag go bold for BDM. BLM, sorry, not BDM. BLM. Go bold for Black Lives Matter, which was originated from 4chan.
Yeah, which also, like, I believe some people said, yeah, why don't you make yourself go look like a skinhead for Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, but people actually were doing it, and I've got I've kept the hashtag thing, and I've kept all that. I've also seen Trudeau is trending because he kneeled in front of anti-racism protests in Ottawa. It's just
great.
Yeah, it's actually I just noticed.
How 10 stunnings and 10 braves to fucking Canada.
He's there. By the way, no one's practicing. In the video I'm looking at on Twitter here, nobody's practicing social distancing. They're all very close together. They're all wearing face masks, and they're all taking a knee in front of protesters. I don't understand this take a knee thing. It's just so stupid. I think it's an empty gesture. It all reeks of empty gesture. Oh dear. Do you think with
Saki BLSDM? No, stop that because what that looked like, that acronym looks like to me, Black Lives sometimes do matter.
I would point out
That's wrong, Saki.
Karma,
Bad.
Karma, not shaving your head. I'm pretty sure the razor and the clippers would get tangled in your hair. It's pretty wild. I did notice. I put it in our sources. Some stuff related to POTUS that I found interesting. About where was it? There is the Pentagon chief telling him not to use the military, which I thought was interesting. But also Trump saying he is your law and order president. Do you think that's true? And do you think that's a bit of an ominous statement to make?
I think that he's trying to, stand tall because
That's all he can do, really.
there was a poll that had come out that I think it was between 50 or 60% of people support using the military and the National Guard against rioters. And so
It's because most people are
I
blue-collar
think
workers.
Trump is trying. Well, right, and also like it's their fucking house that's getting fucked on. So I think that him saying that he wants to be the law and order president, I think it's a poor optics, but I understand why he's doing it.
Yeah.
It's because there are people who are watching lawlessness and going, why won't somebody do something?
Right. I did
And
notice.
Trump's like, okay.
So a lot of people during the week said that Trump was using the church for the photo ops, which he wasn't the only person doing that. To be fair, it's just nobody pointed out Pelosi also did the Bible in a hand thing. And others were caught, other religious people who don't agree with him politically condemning him. The problem is, Trump has a huge amount of sway with evangelicals in your country and very devout Christians that are more conservative. He has a huge sway with them regardless. So he has to keep them on his side anyway, because they're a huge chunk of his voter base.
If that's the case, and we know it is, then what do you think they want to see when they hear about one of the most historic churches in this country was burned?
Well, I hear about the Alamo getting vandalized.
Oh yeah, that was a different one, but that's a different subset of people.
I know, but it's still one of those things. People hear it and they're like, nah, take them out. Take them out.
Yeah.
Send out the judges.
I mean, yeah.
I get that. I can fully respect that as well, because like when I mentioned the cenotaph, if you touch it, you're going to get hurt. I'm sorry, but you want to protest, fine. But protest under the rules of law, the law of the land. Obey that law of the land and make your protest. People say, and this is what pissed me off on Twitter.
Or be fully expecting to get fucking arrested.
Yes. Okay, so to continue on from...
Accept it.
Yeah. When people on Twitter, and this is where I took so much issue with TJ and Shu, because they have been, ever since this started, I mean, they were people I respected. And they and others in that area of what I used to inhabit, but never really sort of like aligned with politically, they're all now okaying, giving the green light and accepting violence, justifying violence.
Oh yeah.
If it's not in a cage or a boxing ring, it has no place. It is not how you make a point. Yes, okay, your country has gone through a few of those, but they never needed to happen. Well, okay, some did, actually. The majority needed to happen. The more recent ones don't need to happen. They really don't, because a lot of them don't even support that.
I would be so happy if all of these people were peacefully protesting, and I mean, like, if we had, like, these nationwide protests,
they'd be
like,
so much...
akin to these, the same protests that were, open up the economy, all this stuff. If they didn't start rioting or looting, I guarantee you people would find an excuse to join them outside as a fucking I'm getting out of the house.
Honestly,
because remember,
it's just so
right
difficult.
before this, conservatives hated police states. Right before this, conservatives were like, "Nah, man, we can't be listening to these unconstitutional laws infringing on our rights to do our thing." And then people started protesting. People were like, all right, cool, yeah. And then they started infringing on the rights of others, and then they were like, okay, nah.
The justification,
you can't do it.
The justification that they all had, and this is what pisses me off so much, is that the only way they can get their point across is by using extreme violence. That is, in your context, in your country, quintessential Trump derangement syndrome. Because you don't like your president, you think this tackles the issue because somehow he is the avatar of racism. He's really not. And in our country, if you do that shit, I'm sorry, but the one thing that's going to happen is, while those at home are peacefully obeying law of land, they're going to go out and kick the shit out of you for having the audacity to defile something like that. And obviously I should say, the cenotaph hasn't been defiled. It was a Hague statue outside Whitehall, along with Whitehall getting defaced, which I think for the most part triggered a fair few Brits as well, because seriously, you don't touch Whitehall.
I don't know the history of that monument.
So Whitehall is where the Chancellor of the Exchequer works. During World War One, it was a very important building, strategically, and yes, it's also historically. Okay. It's just such a historical building. We don't touch it, okay? Just don't. Have your protests. People think that you can resort to violence and you make a greater point. No, you don't. All you do is you put more people out of work because you torch their buildings. You risk people's health and safety because they won't agree with you. You bully them into silence. You are not making a point. You are making a statement that violence is okay, and it's not. If you made your
all the
point,
people who are defending it is worse.
Right. If you made your point peacefully, if you all gathered peacefully, made your point peacefully, damn, you'd get that point across. In this country, you would. You damn well would. Because people would listen to you if you showed them compassion instead of throwing a bottle at them or shooting them in the head. I'm going to get the cat in. You carry on.
That's fine. The worst thing that I saw when all this like really came to a head, like I was mad already that like the cop used extensive violence on George Floyd, and I was mad already. I was like, man, that's so fucked. I hope that guy gets fucking thrown in prison. And then when I started to see riots, I was mad at riots, but I wasn't as furious at riots. You know what I mean? I was still more angry at the fact that George Floyd died, but I was less inclined to be like, yeah, George Floyd, right? I was less inclined to agree with the protests because they had turned violent. But I still more or less agreed with their point that they originally were trying to make.
I didn't mute my mic.
Then, but I don't know.
I didn't think I did. Carry on. Sorry, I do apologize.
But then some of the videos started popping up, and I drew a line at some point because when I saw a female cop being dragged through a mob and like two other cops having to hold back like 2 or 3 other people at the same time.
There was a second report.
I was like, I'm sorry?
The Stephen O'Kane and 10047 just subscribed to you.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
He died of a heart attack. Read the report. Yes, I am a little hesitant to believe that report, but it's definitely going to be interesting. I want to see how this gets argued in court.
We need to wait for this. It needs to unfold. We need more to happen before anyone takes a stand. You can say,
well, what's going to end up happening?
Go on.
What's going to end up happening is the original autopsy is going to be put in front of the court.
Yeah.
And then the prosecution is going to say, no, we also have this autopsy that we had conducted individually, and it says this. And then they're going to argue in court whose expert is better.
Semantics. It's going to be pointless.
Yeah, but that's what law is, right?
That second one will be dismissed. It will be dismissed.
I don't know. I think murder in the second degree is going to get dismissed. I think they had a much better shot if it was murder 3 for all of them.
Yeah. Because
it would be reckless disregard of life or whatever the wording is specifically.
I know the other officers involved were all arrested as well. And that's something I don't want to comment on it any further because again, more needs to unfold first.
I just don't know what's going to end up happening, and I
don't either.
understand what you're saying, Steve, in the chat, Stephen O'Kane. That is what the autopsy had read, but it's a hard thing for me to just go yes at the exact point that he was having a officer exact a slightly unreasonable amount of pressure to this man.
Yeah.
He coincidentally also had a heart attack. I have a hard time going through with that. And Karma, murder in the 3rd degree in Minnesota is essentially manslaughter by how it's described.
Agree. Yeah, that's what it is.
Murder 2 in Minnesota has to do with the split second beforehand that you have in fact decided I'm going to kill this person. So this would be like something where, you're at a bar, somebody punches you in the face, you punch him back, and then he gets up, he's like, oh, I'm gonna fucking fight you, and then you decide to pull a gun and shoot the guy. That could be prosecuted murder 2. You might still win, but that would be an instance. Murder 2 also in Minnesota has to do with like drive-bys where you didn't have an intentional target, but somebody was going to die.
Right. That's really interesting, that is.
Yeah. I listened to Nick Rekieta as he explained it. Nick Rekieta he does a show, Rekieta Lawn.
MC in the chat. The looting was the end of support more than anything else. It was the looting.
I agree. And the destruction of property.
This is why I'm so disappointed in those creators that support the violence, the destruction of the property. TJ's his argument was always about sticking it to big corporation because they do as much damage, if not more, than the damage being done by the protesters. But who's the buck going to stop at when they end up having to make layoffs because they can't be asked to rebuild the buildings?
Well, worse yet. Okay, so you break a window, you've torched a building.
Yeah.
What is that, an insurance claim?
Yes.
A business expense?
Yeah.
A tax write-off?
Yeah.
Who are you fucking, like...
With the big businesses...
Who are you going against?
Yeah, the thing with him is, at the same time, he's defending the same journalists who are not reporting correctly on what is happening. He is against big business, but he is shilling big business. You fucking hypocrite.
And let's talk about like what's gone on in the last few months. Okay, COVID, lockdown. What the companies that have done the best?
Yeah.
Amazon and Walmart. In terms of, goods and sales.
Yeah.
Those two have fucking rocked their stocks the entire time. Okay. Now we move into protests. Walmart and Amazon can eat a lot of these losses.
Yeah.
People who can't are the same people who got hurt because of COVID lockdowns.
Yeah.
You're actually emboldening big businesses because they're the only ones who can withstand this.
Yeah. I can't be bothered with these creators anymore because I'm watching it on my Twitter and I think I've muted most of them now because I'm so pissed off with seeing their shit. Because they are such hypocrites. They never used to condone violence and now they do. Because they believe that they're standing up for a bigger moral cause. They're all tweeting Black Lives Matter and how that George Floyd death was a clear race issue. But that doesn't.
I don't know if it was a clear race issue. But it was a race issue.
What I mean is, what I meant to say was, his death is proof of a societal problem, which has obviously led to others to say, let's defund the police. How about no?
Oh God, yeah. Minnesota or Minneapolis specifically, is trying to defund their police force.
Do that. Trump will send in the National Guard. Oh, no,
you know what? Fine. Okay. Defund the police force. In response, you are all required to defend yourselves, which means Minneapolis becomes the Second Amendment hub of the United States.
Oh no. Ooh, 50
Yeah,
minutes.
let's see how well that goes. Because I know that people who are law-abiding and who are going to try and protect their businesses,
Yeah.
they'll do fine. They're going to try to obey the law because that's what they've been trying to do this whole time. The people who aren't going to have a great time are the ones who are going to hear, police are gone. I can do the bad.
Yeah, Lulu Bell, I
And
saw that
then
as well, by
you're
the
going to
way.
hear more death.
George's wife said he would not want this. I know. Others have then used it.
Yeah.
I saw that comment made, and then I saw lots of other comments afterwards saying, but George was a criminal. That's not the point.
I mean, it's irrelevant. Still true, but irrelevant.
It's true, but utterly, it's that same thing where someone clearly doesn't understand the circumstance. So they throw in another fact to try and water down what has happened. It doesn't help. It doesn't. It's not. By the way, it doesn't even take anyone off point, because the original point is still fair and valid.
Oh no, it's just moving the goalposts to another issue.
I saw the I saw pictures of the his funeral, Mr. Floyd's funeral, and the mayor was seen there crying at the coffin, and I don't know how to respond to anything when I see that, because I can't. I'm sure he is genuinely upset that that guy is dead, but this huge, it's just such a huge event, and honestly, I wish he wasn't dead, because that is such a shitty thing that cop did, truly.
Yeah.
But you're making this you made him into a martyr now. That's really dangerous territory.
The worst thing about this martyrdom of George Floyd is because he wasn't a saint, but the circumstances of his death were a shame.
Yes.
Like, they were wrong, but he wasn't somebody that you want to make a martyr of. Like, one of his rap sheets was that he had armed robbery, where he went into a person's home and stuck a loaded pistol, in the gut of a pregnant woman, and then pistol whipped her. Now, of course, that's terrible. That's awful. Nobody should condone that. That was what he went to prison for. That does not excuse the fact that he was killed in a unlawful manner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I don't want him to be I don't want him to, get martyrdom, because he's not that great of a dude.
This is one of the strangest things for me, because this incident is one of those very few times where I'm actually taking a position, and I feel like, whereas before I could watch others and discern a decent opinion from them, that would help guide me, I'm having to sit back here and come up with my own one, and I'm not even worried about the backlash, because I genuinely think this is such a stupid position that so many people are taken, not just the creators, but the protesters, the looters, the writers. They're all going about this wrong, and people are justifying it and treating it normal because apparently this deals with racism in your country by setting your people back years, because it will take a while to repair the damage done. Sorry.
Oh yeah, both
your communities,
both emotionally, physically, and
it's a mess.
Trust in a sense of trust.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I mean, some of these people who are protesting, they're not from this area. Okay, that's fine. Or they're not from the area of Minnesota.
David Dawn, fucking hell. I saw that video on Twitter.
Oh, I don't.
Oh, I was so pissed off because I turned Twitter on, and it was there in my face, and I was like, "What am I looking at?" And then I heard someone say it, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I didn't want to see that. I genuinely felt sick.
I was so pissed watching that video, because that was. I can't even say that it was wrong, because that's not strong enough. It was just evil.
Agreed.
the guy in the video, really, just TVs? That's why you fucking killed him, really?
Well, someone in the
I'm
chat here says autopsy shows he died of a
so
heart attack. Is that reference
pissy.
to Dawn, or is that a reference to the bullet in
No,
his head? Because I don't.
that's to George Floyd.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I just want to be sure because that's a really
Yeah,
odd
yeah.
comment to appear as we're talking about. I know there's a delay and everything, but
hmm
I didn't watch the thing through. I saw him on the floor. I saw the blood. I heard the comment. Turned it off.
I watched the whole thing, and
I can't.
the guy who's filming is like, I mean, he's not really helping, but I don't necessarily know if he could.
I just don't like. I mean, I saw other comments from people, rather ignorant, bigoted ones, about that, ignoring his death and fobbing it off because of what he did for a living, or and then insert random comment here. But this guy is known to have helped his community. He was always there for his community. That's not someone
And
you want to lose. And
the
then
guy has grandchildren, and the guy is a retired cop helping his friend out, and you just shot him over a fucking Samsung TV? Are you fucking kidding me?
I just I
But
just
here's the reality of it. This shit happens all the time.
yeah, it does.
That the fact that David Dorn is being highlighted now is actually a great thing,
It is.
because that means that people are paying attention to that kind of bullshit that happens in low income, not even just black, but just low income areas.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a unique circumstance. I mean,
Yeah.
you go to the ghetto and people will get shot over such things.
Right. Obviously, Britain, we don't have it on this scale that you have. We do still have some areas that could be considered fairly ghetto, but honestly, it's not a
Right.
huge thing. You know, most of what happening is a couple gets stabbed, like I mentioned. But this guy was good for the community, and honestly, you shouldn't have done that. It was just such a such a stupid thing to do. But then the fact that it happened at this time is what makes it really bad, because people are just ignoring it. Black Lives Matter, but only this type of Black Life Matters. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Person,
also this one.
Go
Lulu says a man with mental issues was killed in the same way as George, but the police was laughing, and that never made the news. Yeah, you want to know the unfortunate part about
on. He
it?
was white, wasn't he?
He was white.
Yeah, I heard about that, but I didn't know. Someone had mentioned it on the day that George Floyd died on Twitter, but I forgot the name of the guy because I was going to mention it in the stream, and I forgot the name because I'm bad with names.
Yeah. Bookish actually describes it perfectly. Poor areas with high population density equals crime. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And that's it's truly unfortunate that is how what happens. But what's more unfortunate is the fact that some people in those areas go down that path thinking that gets them out of the poor, but it doesn't. It just compounds their issues. They're looking for an easy way out, and they're not looking for one that has something that could be deemed to be sustainable long term. Which is why people are trying to, in this country, we try and encourage people going down higher education route. I've always believed education to be what can truly solve many people's problems when it comes to. Why'd you delete the comment?
Oh, I deleted it because it was linking to a WordPress, and I don't trust most WordPress.coms.
All right, sorry, Hugo, man. No links, okay? I always believed that, but then that can't really be applied to your country, can it? Because it's not the same systems we have. We have some that would actually are a lot easier to get into, you know. I hear yours are a bit trickier, but I don't know for fact because hang on a second. Where is that quote again? Hang on, I'll go get it. Chlorinated chicken. No, I don't understand what it means to be American.
I mean, that's fine though. But what you're seeing, that's not what it means to be American either.
No, it's a perversion of the idea.
The protests is a terrible perversion of what American resistance was. American resistance for the longest time was symbolized by those people who and the ones who are talked about the most are the ones who did stand up without violence. Don't get me wrong.
That's true.
In the 60s, there was violence. There was plenty of violence in the 60s during the actual culture war, the actual, racial inequality marches. There was plenty of violence then. But the reason that you talk about Martin Luther King is because he used words, and he would accept the fact that he would get arrested. And the letter from, oh God, it's not Birmingham, but the letter that he wrote from jail becomes something that are very, very important overall to our history.
Yeah.
And even the Boston Tea Party, they weren't allowed to they were instructed not to fire unless fired upon. And even still, if they could take a prisoner, take a prisoner. Don't hurt them, take a prisoner. We're just here for the tea.
Yeah.
The only damage besides the tea was a padlock.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But right now, what you're seeing in all these riots, it's wrong.
I don't think it's gonna. I don't.
And the police that are kneeling, by the way, which is the other half of this title.
Oh yeah.
They're not helping.
They're not. They're
not
cucking
helping.
out. You are cucks. You think you're making a profound point, but what you're doing is saying, "Fuck you, President Trump." That's what you're doing. But that is how I
don't even think so. I think it's please stop looting.
I also think it's fuck you, Trump, because of where a lot of these kneelings are taking place.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
The location being more progressive areas. We're in unity with you, and it's clearly his fault because he breeds the racism. That's how I see it anyway. But I could be wrong.
I don't know.
Wrong. It's a tricky one.
I don't know, honestly.
I tend to think this is going to go on for a while longer, and I don't want that to become a third stream. But actually, I do think I said to you earlier on Facebook that last two streams we've done on this channel have been absolute bangers for views, because when we start complaining, or you do, it does really well. I don't usually. I sit back and listen because it's easier. But today I have actually. I think I've engaged a bit, but more my frustrations with people who are now justifying things that they never did before. And you know what? I can't be arsed with you people. This is why I never got involved in communities, by the way. If anyone ever wondered, why doesn't Omegon get involved in communities? Simple, really. Because of pricks. Inconsistent flip-flops. Shills. I can't be arsed with any of you. And they never noticed me. But mostly the inconsistencies I noticed early enough on to never want to get involved with you. That's why I only talk to people that I can trust. Trups is one of them, because he'll actually say something and be honest about it. Fuck the rest of them.
Yeah, go me.
Just fuck the rest. It's why I hang out with Sith and Alex. The rest of these creators are fucking cowards. And the only people who take knees are Jedi. You're correct. That's why I have a Jedi avatar. Haven't used him in a while. Yeah. We have hit our hour mark, and I think this will go on for another week, which is unfortunate. But if it does next week, I'm sure we can talk more about how Trump man bad. Is there anything you would like to shill before we finish?
No, I didn't actually end up putting out a video yesterday because actually one of my friends who is down by me for a week ended up stopping in, and he stayed by till about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Nice.
So yeah, it was nice seeing him. I haven't seen a whole lot of people over the last 3 months, so it was nice.
I'm glad you had some fun, mate. Glad you had some fun.
But nothing to show at the moment. No.
Right, well, I don't either. I'm going to take the weekend off. I had a 5-year anniversary on my main channel, thanks to those that turned up. Thank you here, by the way, for everyone that turned up. The police who are taking a knee are cucks. I saw one cop get set on fire. That was nice. it's been a lovely, lovely, pleasant, politically
Couple
correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting, and I don't want it to stretch on for longer, but I think it will, and that sucks. Thank you to everyone that turned up. Thank you to everyone that smashed like, and to, I believe, Karma that sent the donation, and to Tenno for subbing to Trups. We're going to go now.
Woo!
So we'll see you all next week. Say good night, Trups.
Good night, Trups.
Good night, Trups.